All right, guys, so a lot of you have been asking, how does it drive with the new 37-inch tires? In the last video, I showed you guys that it was rubbing in front on the fender liner and the front bumper where I trimmed off, and you could see the bumpers trimmed quite a bit. So when the wheel turns, it no longer hits that front bumper. Once that wasn't no longer an issue, I started to notice that it was rubbing on the backside of this inner fender well. And it was rubbing on the fender liner and kind of eating through the passenger side. Is a lot worse than this. This is not even that bad, but it was coming through, and I'll show you where. So right here on this pinch weld, trying to focus. Here in this pinch weld, you could see some of this adhesive is kind of wearing down, but every time the tire turns, it'll hit this. And I did notice that this line was also, it was running along here. It was also kind of getting rubbed by the tire, and it's very minimal damage. I mean, this tire only connects when, I'm at full lock, either parallel parking or whatever. But anytime I turn the steering wheel full lock, it'll rub on here quite a bit. So I'm trying to relocate it inwards a little bit with these zip ties and clips that are clipping onto this front casting. And it's not quite working out as well as I want to. Now, the reason why I'm really concerned about this is when it was kind of peeking through the fender liner, I assumed that this is the air suspension line. So once I took the fender liner off and you travel up, it is in fact going into the air suspension, which is pretty scary. Now, again, we're not rubbing on this at 70 miles per hour on the highway. That's like a guaranteed blowout. It's only when it's 2 miles per hour, the wheel is turned lock to lock, and you're parallel parking. But still, I would prefer that it doesn't hit at all. Now, for some reason, Tesla routed it in front of these bolting location. I mean, this top one has a bolt in there, but this bottom one doesn't. But they routed it in front of it for some reason. And on this one, there's not enough of a gap to kind of like tuck this behind. So I'm gonna disconnect the battery so we don't get any faults. And well, beforehand, I'll probably put this on entry mode, disconnect the battery, and then disconnect from here. It seems like this comes out a little easier. And then just reroute this line behind this little standoff. So it's well protected, and then up here is not a problem. So we can reattach, back up here, and then just route it as we normally would. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass, but I just feel a lot better if this was rerouted. So we'll get started on that. The front battery is out in front. So there's 2 harnesses behind here and here that you have to disconnect. Before you do, you kind of have to turn it off from the inside of the car first before disconnecting, and do a little procedure such as rolling down all the windows, because if you try to open the window with it up and there's no power to bring it down, it's going to break the window. So roll down all the windows. Also, since the doors are electric, you want to also open those up and leave them open, and maybe put like a rag on the striker so they don't slam close. I will jack up the car, and then once power is done, so we don't get any like air suspension pressure faults, disconnect the battery, and then we'll disconnect the line and then reroute it, put it back in, and turn the battery back turn the battery back on, and then hopefully everything is fine. Okay, so I put the truck on entry mode just so it has the least amount of air pressure in, so when I remove that line, it doesn't like burst with a ton of pressure. Now I did turn it off from the inside. According to the Tesla manual, we have to disconnect the teal colored clip first, and then this red clip, and then also when reconnecting, we'll also do the teal first and then the red connector. Now, the reason why I'm doing this in the first place is once I disconnect this air line, I don't know if the computer is going to pick up that there's 0 PSI in this, airbag or airline, and may get like some type of fault in there. So I'd rather disconnect the power first before I, remove all air pressure. And that way I'll be able to reconnect the line, and then reconnect the power, turn the car back on. I'm really hoping that there's no faults that's going to pop up. But I'm assuming, people have to take out the suspension every now and then. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so connected first one, connected the second one. This one just has a red tab that you have to slide, and then the black hinge, almost like lever, you have to pull out, and then it just kind of like pops right out on its own. So that was a lot easier than I expected. I'm gonna get the floor jack underneath, jack it up, remove the wheel, and then we'll remove the airline and reroute it. Okay, airline is out. Just a 14mm nut that attaches to the top. I clipped all the zip ties on the clips that are holding it in. I'm gonna push it up and reroute it behind here. So it's gonna go up through here. And then I guess it might be worth to go up to this top one as well. And then just kind of reattach with a zip tie to this clip, and it'll be completely protected. No issues at all. So this is super flexible. It's not a rigid line at all. It's just a matter of bending it down. There is a fitting on here with an O-ring, so just be careful with that. But we're gonna stick it up and run. I don't have my tripod out, so I'm trying to do this with one hand. All right, there we go. Done. And the first one. Look at this, doing it one-handed. It's easy to do. It's just a little intimidating on a brand new truck with a million sensors on it. But okay, we're routed. Back behind this little standoff, behind the top one as well, up. Reuse this clip with the zip tie in it. Also this one, zip tie, new zip tie, and this threaded back. If you're doing this yourself, I recommend doing this, threading it in by hand, not by wrench. If you cross thread this, it's gonna be pretty bad. There's also an O-ring on there, so I wouldn't tighten it too much, just kind of like snug and test with it. If you over tighten it, it'll probably like tear the O-ring. So I'm pretty happy. Like I said, it's not hard, it's just a little intimidating on a brand new truck. Especially here in New York, it's maybe below 30 degrees right now. So, but I definitely wanted to get this done for sure. Now, since the truck is off, and all the solenoids and the pump is closed, this one is completely empty, this air spring. So now if I put this on the ground, it's just going to collapse all the way down. So unfortunately, I think I do have to turn the car back on, have the pump, the air pump pressure back into this this air spring before I even drop it down to do the next side. So that's a little bit of a pain in the ass. I guess if you're doing it on the shop where the truck is on a lift, that'll be a lot easier. You could knock out both sides all at once, but me doing it on the ground like this, I'm gonna have to refill this air spring before I could put the tire back on and put it on the ground and take this floor jack over to the other side. But it is what it is, so let me take care of that right now. All right, so I plugged in the teal, then the red, turned on the car. It didn't put pressure into the front driver air spring, but once I turned on the car, got inside and turned it to, or switched it rather to the suspension settings to high. I think it was on entry. I switched it to high, and it filled up the air spring. So this is just standing on its own. There's no floor jacks over there. No errors inside. So I guess we'll start with the passenger side now. Okay, so we're on the passenger side right now. I forgot to put the truck in entry mode, so there's probably quite a bit of pressure in these lines. So when it comes to this 14 millimeter, I'm gonna go a little bit slower this time around. Let the lines bleed out some air so it doesn't just pop off on me. Okay, you can hear that air coming out. I'll let it depressurize for a little bit before I just keep on going and pull it off. Okay, so we're finally routed. This is, again, the passenger side, and this is back behind this standoff, and behind this one, and runs up. I'm gonna put zip ties in these clips here. No zip ties. I had to clip them off to kind of rerun everything. This compression fitting is back inside and tightened, but not too much, so we don't rip the O-ring. Now it's a matter of just plugging everything up, zip ties, wheel goes back on, and we'll have the truck put air back in this air spring to get it back up. I'll get some footage of that as well. Okay, so wheels back on. I got the harnesses plugged back in. So let me show you guys. When I lower this floor jack, you're gonna be able to see how now the wheel has... Oh, wait, gotta take the jack stand out first. All right. See, this is going below entry because there's no pressure in there at all. So if you see the back wheel, how high it is compared to this one, we'll hop in and try to set it on high mode. Okay, now. All right, focus. This is not focusing at all. There we go. Okay, so we're actually on high mode already. Let's try to go down to medium. All right, I see the front lifting up. Try to go back to high. All right, now we're lifting on the front passenger corner. So the pump in the tank is just opening up the solenoids and letting air into that corner now. Let's check. Okay, this looks a lot better now. We're about matching front and rear ride height, so I know that there's pressure inside this air spring. I'll be able to now pull out this floor jack. Yeah, it wasn't even holding nothing in there. Now I did trim back the fender liner on this side as well, so it's not getting caught up. Airline is way out the way. The only thing that it's going to be hitting now is this pinch hold here, and the passenger side is way worse. This is not too bad, and it's actually chewing up the tires on the passenger side, but on here there's barely anything. I'm considering getting like an angle grinder and just kind of like grinding this away flat a little bit to create some relief. But I think it'll be easier to just lift some kind of like spacer between the shock and the chassis or somehow to kind of lift this up. I know Unplugged Performance sells 2.5-inch spacer that just sits up top, but that kit is like 10 grand, and I feel like just to avoid hitting this, 10,000 is kind of not warranted. but it does retain the factory air suspension. I think a lift would help a lot, because if you see the points where the upper control arm connect, they're a little bit staggered. So as you lift up, it's not pushing the tire straight down, but rather down into the front, away from here. So it's going to push down but maintain that caster angle. So any type of suspension lift would create more of a gap between the back of this tire and the chassis there, and it'll space it out a little bit. So I think some type of lift, in addition to these links here, would be a lot beneficial. You may start to run into issues and to now hitting on the front bumper, but that's just a matter of trimming, and no problem with that. But if anyone knows of any kind of like spacer lifts without having to go like full coilovers, drop a link down in the comments. I'm really interested to see. Okay, so that's going to be it for today. I know a lot of you guys had commented in my last video asking how does it drive, how's the rubbing going. So this is just an update, some more precautionary measures taken in the fender liners and the air lines. I'll give an update on how this fender liner trimming is holding up. And like I said earlier, if anyone has any information on suspension lifts for this truck, please drop it down in the comments below. I'd like to install that. But anyways, thanks for watching.